When indigenous languages become endangered, several aspects in their history and culture are lost. We can have a better understanding of the levels at which the language is used by using appropriate terms. These words can vary within the scope of an alive language, endangered, dead, or revitalized language. An alive language can be called strong, healthy, or safe language, which means that all generations actively use the language. An extinct or a dead language means that there are no speakers that remain. In between, we can see the weakening languages, which means they are usually spoken by older people, but not fully learned by the younger generations, and dying languages, which means that there are no young people who are learning them. Weakening and dying languages are within the scope of language endangerment in general. Language revitalization is an effort to bring back the language into full use by the development of programs that result in re-establishing a seized language. Some approaches to language revitalization include children's programs, inside and outside of school, adult language programs, and home-based programs.
Gitxsan is a member of the Tsimshianic language family, a group of approximately 4 languages spoken along the Skeena River and surrounding southern coastal territories in northwestern British Columbia. Gitxsan's closest relative is Nishka. Some linguists consider them dialects of the same language, although both groups identify as being ethnically distinct from one another. The Tsimshianic language group is comprised of 2 subgroups, Tsimshian and Nas-Gitxsan. Within the Tsimshian subgroup, there are 2 languages, Ko-Tsimshian and Southern Tsimshian, although Southern Tsimshian was declared extinct in 2003. Within the Nas-Gitxsan subgroup, Nishka is spoken along the Nas River, which runs parallel with and connects down to the Skeena River. Gitxsan is spoken primarily inland along the Skeena River and more east from its Niska relative.
The traditional territory is approximately 33,000 square kilometers and is home to at least 7,595 members of the Gitxsan nation. It has been estimated that the Gitxsan nation has a population of 8,000 to 13,000 members. In 2018, there are reportedly 522 fluent Gitxsan speakers. There is a lab in BC which aims to protect remaining first language speakers and help the second language speaker learn as a version of the language as possible.
In terms of First Nations languages, BC is the most linguistically diverse of the provinces, with about 26 of Canada's 60 Indigenous languages. While these languages are characteristically different, one disturbing feature they all share is they are among the world's most endangered. 10 have already become extinct. In case of Gitxsan, many forces have combined to make this happen, but 2 that deserve special mention are Canada's system of residential schools and the reach of English-dominated media. Technology played a role due to the competition that all art forms face from the vast array of music, TV, and internet-based entertainment. Residential schools, however, played an even bigger part in its extinction, as students were forbidden to speak the language and punished if they did. Reports talk about First Nations children being taken from their families to distant boarding schools in order to be civilized. Against their wishes, they were placed in loveless institutions, separated from their siblings, forbidden to speak their own languages, ridiculed for their beliefs, forced to adopt foreign values and habits, and subjected to an inappropriate, inadequate education. They faced malnourishment, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse at the hands of instructors.
Gitxsan is oral language, and there is no written text. However, some institutions, such as UBC, has made dictionaries. This is a short practical dictionary of the Gitxsan language, and grammar is introduced in it. It was made over 40 years ago, but it is still a good source to learn Gitxsan. And also there are some online dictionaries too. Gitxsan doesn't have script, and when language doesn't have script, it's sometimes considered as negative thing, because people think non-literate language limits various expressions. However, it is usually opposite. There is no script, so consciousness to make communication certain thing becomes strong. You can understand this from thousands of storytelling which develop at the non-literate language. Non-literate language doesn't have letter, but communication might become richer by using voice and physical expression. Non-literate language society doesn't mean backward society, but it just means the society which doesn't require letters.
With gitxsan being essentially an unwritten language, there is an emphasis on storytelling. For the gitxsan people, storytelling is the art of using language as a means of passing on wisdom, beliefs, and values, allowing for the exploration of how and why things are as they are. Storytelling is used because it links the past to the present and the future, and leads both the hearers and speakers into conscious awareness regarding their actions, and any consequences that may follow. Traditional gitxsan stories are different to modern Western literature, in that they do not omit any dangers that the characters face in their journeys, for otherwise it is believed that the morals of the tale would not be learned. Such is the case in the traditional gitxsan story titled Legend of the Kaladikal, which tells of an old lady who killed her daughter and was then beaten with a club by a hunter. The gitxsan word, Kaladikal, in this story refers to the Steller's jay, a bird found throughout British Columbia. This name comes from the expression, hair tied back. This bird is portrayed in the story, The Long-Nosed Monster Who Walked, a tale about dexterity and trickery that features a son who sets out to hunt a monster who is afflicting his people. This monster declares after an apparent defeat that he will haunt the gitxsan every summer until the end of time. Essentially, storytelling is used by the gitxsan people because it has the ability to aid First Nations students in having a positive and constructive personal value system where they can recognize both wise and unwise actions and decisions.
It is impossible to talk about the conservation of the gitxsan language without addressing the tremendous efforts of gitxsan elders to pass on their culture to the next generation. In an interview with gitxsan elder Doreen Jensen, she discusses the importance of teaching and its significance for cultural revitalization. Before Jensen became a teacher herself, her mother was her source of knowledge. While on walks through the forest, her mother would talk to the berries and the leaves, as Jensen learned the words for them one by one. Jensen used this method of learning through action with her students, often teaching the children songs after school, as the gitxsan language was not allowed to be spoken during this time. Jensen was also an artist who embraced her heritage through her work, which showcases the strength of traditional craftsmanship. It is through the guidance and dedication of elders and teachers that the gitxsan culture will persist for future generations.